Welcome back to our daily Bible study. I am Matthew Gage, pastor at Faith Baptist Church, and we will be in chapter number 39 of the book of Genesis chapter 39. And in this chapter, we'll really start getting back into the life of Joseph, which is going to be the theme for the next few chapters. And in this chapter, we will see the events that happened while Joseph was in Potiphar's house. So let's just jump right in. Like I said, when we're dealing with Joseph, a lot of these stories are very familiar, I know, and this is one that's going to be quite familiar, I'm sure, if you've grown up in church or Sunday school. But let's not skip over it too fast. Let's see what we can learn. Chapter 39, verse 1. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down hither. Now, I told you we talked a little bit about Potiphar. Potiphar, the name means something about he who Ra, the sun god, has given. So kind of a gift of Ra, kind of in that name. They have inscriptions found of similar names, and that similar names will pop up here in a few chapters, maybe the next chapter actually. But basically, that's what that name means. Who is he? Well, he's a court official of some sort. We're not really sure here with the ranks that are given. The captain of the guard literally is something like captain of the slaughterers. Some people take that to be that he may be in charge of the cooks. I don't see so. I think that he probably is a military person with the prestige and stuff that seems to be given to him. But we'll just leave that for other people to debate. But anyway, so we have Joseph bought as a slave by Potiphar. So verse number 2. And the Lord was with Joseph. Now, I'm going to pause here just for a second. I love this little phrase and this idea, and it pops up so many times about Joseph. Even in the darkest times of Joseph's life, the Lord was with him, and the Lord was blessing him. Even when things didn't look like things were going his way, God was still working, and the Lord was with him. And I love that phrase, and we're going to say it time and time again about him. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him an overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. So we have Joseph going from just being a slave to, hey, this guy's got some talent. Look, everything he's doing is prospering. He's elevating, and now he's getting into the ranks something similar to a steward, someone just a house manager, if you will, that is in charge of Potiphar's house and estate. Verse number 5. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. So the blessing we have with Joseph, God is using him, God is blessing him. And much like we saw with Jacob, without the scheming, we saw how Jacob prospered even while he and Laban were trying to cheat each other. Here we have God just blessing Joseph. What he's doing, God is blessing. He's prospering. So if he's in charge of flocks, the flocks are prospering. If he's in charge of finances, the finances are prospering. Whatever they put him in charge of, it's doing well. And so it gets to the point, Potiphar is not a stupid person at all. And so he takes Joseph, puts him in charge of everything. And by putting him in charge of everything, the entire house is prospering. And it gets down to the point that it's said here that Potiphar doesn't even know what he owns. He doesn't know how many suits he owns. He doesn't know how much food's in the fridge. He doesn't know how many flocks he has. Joseph just takes care of everything. Basically, whatever is in front of Potiphar, Potiphar knows he has. He gets up in the morning, there's a suit of clothes laying out. He knows that's his. The plate of food that's put in front of him, he knows that that's his. But everything else is just managed to to great increase by the hand of Joseph. So I like to describe the life of Joseph as being a roller coaster. There's highs and lows, and he's going to go through so many of them. Starts out as, the favored son of Jacob. He's then thrown in the pit, sold into slavery. He's a slave in Egypt. Now he's kind of on an uptick again. He's doing rather well for himself as far as a slave goes or a servant goes. He's doing pretty good. I mean, he's on top of the food chain as far as that goes. So, I mean, he's not a free man by any stretch, but yet he's the top dog when it comes to being a servant or a slave. Well, here comes opposition. This is the story of the life of Joseph also. Ups and downs through this part. And so verse number 7, we have the next incident. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph. She said, lie with me. So now Potiphar's wife gets eyes for Joseph, is lusting after him, is trying to have an affair with Joseph. Verse 8, but he refused and said unto his master's wife, behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? So kind of reasonable at first. He says, my master wouldn't want this. My master's given me everything. I have run this entire place. I've got keys to everything. I can get into everything, manage everything. But the one thing that is Potiphar says, this is mine, with the right to do so, is his wife. She is Potiphar's. That's not the place for anyone else. So that's what Joseph points out. And then again, the greater thing is sin against God. He's saying, how can I do this wickedness, not just in the practical sense, not just in the reasonable sense, but in the sense that I would be sinning against the God that I serve, the God that I trust in. Which is also interesting. Look, you see his faith in development. Where did he get this faith? You didn't see a lot of faith before in what he did. You saw a lot of boisterous and him kind of rubbing it in his brother's face with the dreams and things that God had revealed. But I think Joseph has learned a lesson in humility. He's trusting in God, and that trust is going to be built and strengthened over the next couple chapters. Verse 10, and it came to pass as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her to lie by her or to be with her. So she keeps on after him. She keeps propositioning him. He keeps refusing, and to the point that he's not even, he avoids her. He's not even being with her. So he's avoiding her. Verse 11 though, and it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. So right here, I think Joseph does make a mistake, and this has been brought up by a few people I've heard talk about this passage. Is Joseph completely blameless in this situation? I think in a large part that he is blameless. I don't think he has encouraged Potiphar's wife at all, but he has messed up and put himself in a compromised position here. He's in the house by himself. There's no witnesses. There's no one who can back up his story. So in the events that come to play here in the next few verses, I think that he has put himself in a vulnerable position. And if Joseph has made a mistake, it's not a moral mistake necessarily, but it is a mistake in regards to, shall we say, wisdom. If he had been wise, he would have not been in this position. Verse 12, and she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out. So as she tries to force him, she grabs hold of his outer coat and she grabs it. He flees, runs away, but in the process of wrestling out of her grip, that outer garment comes off and it's stuck in her hand. And the old saying is that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And She goes from, being infatuated with him, trying to have an affair with him, to now she's going to ruin him. Verse number 13. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of the house and spake unto them, saying, See, he hath brought us in Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out. So she comes up with this story. Instead of her being the aggressor, she says, well, Joseph was the aggressor. He tried to rape me. And if I hadn't screamed and scared him off, he definitely would have done so. But he's escaped, and here's the proof. I have his coat to prove that he was here. And I'm sure also by that point, there was no one there, but maybe the people outside saw Joseph run out without his coat on. And so, like I said, the situation that Joseph is in does not look good. All the evidence is stacked against him. Verse 16 says, she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. So she holds on to the evidence. She is scheming now. So she's already made the accusation with the servants. And now, I don't know if Potiphar is away like on a campaign or on business or just waiting for 5 o'clock and he gets off. But Potiphar comes home and she tells him the same story, verse 17. And she spake unto him, that's Potiphar, according to these words, saying, the Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in to me to mock me. Now, I think that's funny too. It's all your fault. You're the one that brought that Hebrew in here. Kind of detect a hint of like racism in there too, that, looking down this Hebrew, we normally wouldn't have a Hebrew person around here, but you brought one in and look what trouble he's caused. So I think you can kind of detect a little bit of that in there too. Verse 18. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, after this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. So hearing the words of his wife, and it turns out that as much as he entrusted to Joseph and entrusted Joseph's care and Joseph's word and Joseph's character, when it came down to this, he trusted his wife's word greater. So when she says that Joseph tried to rape her, he believes her. He is angry. Verse number 20. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. Now, prisons are kind of uncommon in ancient history, even especially this far back. Normally, something like this, you'd probably, especially with a slave, there'd just be an execution or something like that. And I have heard and read people claim that it probably would have been more proper for him to be killed. I don't know any good historical reference for that. I think that may be some speculation based on just our understanding of ancient cultures. But this could be a case where Potiphar does care enough for Joseph or recognizes the good that Joseph has done, that he's trying to maybe not kill him, but do something bad, but didn't want to go all the way into killing him. I don't know if we can speak to any certainty on that, but nevertheless, in the providence of God, God has taken Joseph out of the pit. He's been a slave in Potiphar's house, and now he's about to be in prison. There's a wonderful alliterated P outline to this journey of Joseph, and I'm going to reference quite a bit. So he's in prison. Once again, this roller coaster. Things were going good in Potiphar's house, and now they're bad again. Now he's in prison, low point. But what happens? Verse 21. But the Lord was with Joseph. In spite of this tragic turn of events, God is still with Joseph, and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. So here locally, we're here in Decatur, Texas, Wise County, we've had like work programs and things for prisoners in the jail. These, I think it's called like a trustee program, where they've at times past, they've had some of the inmates go out and they'll pay them a little bit, but they'll go out and they used to mow cemeteries and and do some work, pick up trash and different things. Some of that's kind of been done away with, some legality things now. I kind of picture the same thing there as Joseph, though, is not necessarily just in shackles, but they see, hey, we can trust this guy. Maybe he was helping in the kitchen one day. Like, hey, this guy's pretty good. So as he just through these little tasks and things that are given to him, they realize we can trust him. He's doing well in what he does. So even in the prison, what happens with Joseph? He is excelling. He's being promoted. And now he's some type of deputy jailer as a prisoner. It's amazing to see. Verse 23, the keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. So God's hand of blessing on Joseph, even in these terrible, terrible, troubling times that he is in as a prisoner, yet now he's basically, like I say, like the assistant jailer and just basically running the prison. Very similar situation to what we saw with Potiphar. That Potiphar got to the point that he didn't know what was going on. Joseph just handles it. Now the keeper of the prison there, the jailer, whatever you want to call him there, the warden, he doesn't even know what's going on in his own prison. Joseph is managing anything, so they go to him for a report and say, hey, give us a report. How many people you got? How much food you got? He'd say, hey, give me a second. Let me call in Joseph. Joseph will tell you. Joseph was running the entire affair. So anyway, there we go. Some roller coaster events in the life of Joseph. Pretty short, 23 verses there to look at. And I'm sure it's quite familiar to anyone who's, like I say, been in Sunday school. Very familiar story. So we will get into the next chapter, the further events that happen in the prison in chapter number 40 that lead up to Joseph being brought out of being freed from prison and then being promoted into Pharaoh's own court. So we'll get to that over the next couple of recordings. So anyway, appreciate you watching. I hope it's been a help and a blessing to you.